How to use the off-season effectively. I'm Tony. Welcome back to Streetball Strategies.
To complete the mission, I'm the definition, I'm the essence of focus and domination. I'm the best, it's an understatement, I'm the greatest. I don't respect the rules, I was born to break them.
In this video, I'm assuming that as outdoor players, at some point you're going to get forced off the court for an extended period of time because of the weather. I consider the off season to be October, which it is right now, through about the end of February. During that time, the weather's so bad that I can't effectively get on the court and play basketball, so I consider that to be my off season. When we think about using the off season effectively, we should keep in mind that purpose and intent is very important during this time. We always want there to be purpose and intent behind what we're doing and how we're using that time, because using that time in a way where we're making ourselves better as basketball players is very important. So let's talk about how we're going to structure that so that when we come back next season, we are much better players than when we left. With structure and intention being the central theme to the off season, let's stick down this path of structure. This is all about strength and weaknesses, right? So as the season is winding down, you should at least have an idea of what your strengths and weaknesses are, so that when you have this abundance of time off the court, you can now work on those weaknesses. I'm a big believer in using training environments properly. So, for example, if you're in the weight room, right, lifting weights, moving weights, using resistance, that kind of training is meant to make you stronger and more powerful, but it's not meant for cardio. So in between sets, for example, of doing those exercises, the longer you rest, the more powerful, stronger you're going to be on the next set, and the more powerful and stronger you're going to be overall. The less you rest in between sets, the more that workout becomes cardio based than strength and power based. Vice versa, if you're on an exercise bike and you crank the setting on the exercise bike so that it's really hard to pedal and you have to use a whole lot of strength in your legs, power to pedal that bicycle, now you've made that cardio exercise into a power and strength exercise. Whereas you should use that cardio equipment to actually do cardio. Don't worry about strength and power when you're trying to do cardio. The same principle takes place out here. So when you're actually on the court, when you actually have access to the court, say for example because you have nice weather, then you should be doing court specific skill training out here. You should be using the court for court specific skill stuff. When you're forced off the court in the off season because you no longer have access to the court, well, now it's time to focus on your body, your physical abilities and attributes. When the season starts up again, specifically pre-season, that's when you can really start to focus back in on your actual basketball on the court skills. But in the off season, don't worry about your dribbling, your passing. Don't worry about shooting threes, and if you're getting rusty and all that, don't worry about that. That will come back. You will train that back into your system. But now that you're off the court and it's the off season, focus on your body, focus on getting better physically. When we're talking about making use of your time in the off season and trying to use it effectively, I take a three-prong approach to how I use the off season. The first prong being rest. Now, I look at rest as kind of a necessary evil. The reason I look at it like that is because when you're resting, there may be other players in your town, in your city, in your neighborhood that are getting better. They're working while you're resting, and it should be the other way around. One of the staples of this channel is that while it's applicable for every basketball player, it's intended for those of us who have a lower talent level than the average player out here. And so because we have a lower talent level, in order to compensate for that, we have to outwork everybody else. And we can't outwork people if we're resting. Us working on our games while everyone else is resting and wasting their time is what elevates us from them. It's what separates us from them. While they're resting, we're practicing. While they're watching TV, we're working. While they're wasting their time, we're working, right? That's what separates us from them. But maybe the best thing about the off season is that you have time. You have abundance of time to work with. So if you actually genuinely need to rest, then you definitely should take that time and rest, recuperate, recover. Don't do it if you don't actually need it, but if you do, it's mandatory that you do. The best way I know to determine whether or not you actually need to rest is pay attention to your performance. So at the end of the season, as it's winding down, how do you feel? Like, not just physically, even though obviously that's important, but how do you feel mentally, spiritually? Like, are you still into the game? Are you still excited to get up out of bed in the morning and come out to the court and put your work in? And when you're out here, do you still feel good physically? You know, are you still excited to put this work in? Does it still feel good physically to be out here? But if you feel yourself being worn down, if you feel yourself starting to burn out, be it physically or mentally or spiritually, like emotionally, then that's fine. That happens to everybody, right? That's gonna happen to you at some point. When you start to feel that drainage happen, not only is it okay to rest in that case, it's necessary for you to do so. Especially the older you get, more specifically, the more wear and tear you put on your body from all the playing and practicing and pushing yourself you're gonna be doing out here, the older you get, the more rest you're gonna need. In terms of how long you should rest, I like to test it on a daily basis, unless I know for sure that I'm not gonna, do anything basketball related for that day. So like in terms of training, physical training, I always say get up, give it a try, see how it feels. If you feel like you're doing okay and you can make it through the rest of your training without it being a complete struggle, then finish that training for the day. If you start your training and you're just completely dragging and it's not getting better at all, then take that day off, rest because you obviously need it. And then repeat that day after day, see how it goes. One day you will have enough rest, and then that's the day you get back to work. The second prong is your physical abilities, working on them, improving them. The way I like to approach this is to have one big overall general thing that you want to work on and get better at, when you come back for the next season. That's the one thing you want to be significantly better at. And then below that, in terms of importance, are smaller, less significant, less important, more auxiliary things that you're going to work on in the days where you want to take a break, or you want to switch it up, or you're getting bored from working on that one overall thing. Then you have those lower tier, less important things that you work on those days. An example for me was when I was a teenager, I was always fast and quick and had good endurance and stamina, and I had good strong legs, but my upper body was always skinny. Most of the players I played against, even if they were my height, even though most of them were taller than me, even if they were the same size as I was in terms of height, I would usually get outweighed by like 20 plus pounds by most players. And I could hold my own okay down in the post, but only because I had good, strong, naturally strong legs. If not for that, I would get destroyed down in the post. So every off season, most of the time it was about getting bigger, stronger, more powerful in my upper body. So that was my number one overall goal for most of my off seasons. And then my lower tier goals was I didn't want to lose that quickness, that speed, that agility in my legs while trying to get my upper body stronger. So on days when I wanted a break or I wanted to switch it up from working on my upper body, I would then make sure my legs were staying agile and quick. And because you have so much time to work with in the off season, the great thing about that is you can try and experiment with a bunch of different things. The more you experiment, the more you find what works for you and what doesn't. In doing so, you understand your body better, and you can take the stuff that works, key in on that stuff, figure out why it worked, and then keep refining it until it works for you in a way that specifically gives you the kind of results that you're looking for. The third prong in the off season is studying the game, analyzing it so that you understand it to a level that you are much more skilled in terms of your understanding of the game than you were when you left. That could very well be the most important thing you do with your off season, because your contemporaries, your opponents, everybody else out here, that's probably the one thing of those three that they are not doing, or at least they're not doing it intentionally like you should be doing. All the other players out here in the off season, they are definitely going to rest, and some of them are probably going to work out and try to become physically better, but they're probably not going to be intentionally, purposefully studying the game to analyze it and understand it to a greater level. Sure, they'll watch their favorite NBA players and they'll play 2K, and maybe they'll try to say, oh, I'm playing 2K, therefore that's making me understand the game better as well, when in reality they just want to sit and be still and play video games. But they're not actually studying the game. They're not actually understanding it better than they used to. One of the best things you can do to study the game is to study your game, which means you should be recording yourself playing games out here at the park during the season. You can really analyze your game. You have the time to do that in the off season. Your opponents are not doing that. The casual players out here, they are not doing it. They're watching LeBron, Kevin Durant, Kyrie, Dame. They're watching those guys play. They're enjoying that, but they're not studying. They're not getting better. They're not using that time the way you are. Studying the game, analyzing it, understanding it. That's very well the one thing that you're going to do in the off season that's going to elevate you from them. Because while both of you may be watching the same NBA game, they're watching for enjoyment and to pass and or waste time. You're watching that game to understand what's going on, why things are happening, and you're internalizing it. You're using that as data that you're going to access once you get back on the court. If you can be studying while you're resting, then that's what you should be doing. You should be utilizing every day of that off season to make yourself significantly better, so when you come back, you're better, more elevated than anyone else on the court. That is how to use the off season effectively. Making good, purposeful, intentional use of all of that time is what's going to separate you from your competition. Your competition, they want to rest, they want to relax, they want to enjoy themselves, they want to watch games, play video games. They want to sort of, get soft in that off season, whereas you are hardening your game. You're hardening your resolve to get better at the game. You should have the same excitement and passion for your off season that you have for the actual season. You should still want to go to bed early, wake up early, so that you can get out of bed and start your day for whatever you're doing in your off season, the same kind of way that you would with the actual season. It's just up to you to figure out how to make the off season exciting for you. If you don't have that in you, if you're just like, if I can't get on the court, I just don't feel like doing anything basketball related, that's fine, but you ain't about this life. This is not for you. You are a casual player. That's fine. No problem being a casual player, but this channel is dedicated to those of us who cannot get enough of this despite the time of year, despite whether or not we're on the court. Every day we're striving to be the best player that we can be. So just because you're not on the court and you're like, for me, I'm gonna be off the court for 7 months. That sucks. But those 7 months, that's 7 months of training, of studying, of resting. 7 months that I'm going to be using effectively, that I know nobody else is going to be doing. 7 months, a 7-month head start. You give me a 2-week head start on anybody at anything. I'm destroying everybody. You give me 7 months, it's over. You can't stop me at 7 months. I look forward to that. I savor that. Every morning I wake up going, I know I'm gonna work today while everybody else is resting. Therefore, I'm gonna be a little bit better today when they are not. I have that passion, that drive every day, and I hope that you have it too, that you can find it within yourself to have that passion. It's fun, it's enjoyable, you should want it, you should look forward to it, you should want to get out of bed and get your day started every day, even in the off season. It's a great game, even when you're not on the court, and I hope you feel the same way too. So I want to thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, if you think it's going to help you use your off season effectively and come back better than ever, then please subscribe to the channel. Also, make sure you hit that thanks button. When you hit that thanks button, you directly support this channel, and you get benefits from doing it too. Like your comments below, they get highlighted, and it's a bunch of cool effects that come along with hitting that thanks button. It directly supports the channel, and for those of you who do that, know I sincerely appreciate it. As always, like, share, comment, hit that notification bell so you're notified whenever any of my videos go live, and until then, I will see you guys next week.
It's my time. I'm heavy in the game like my name. Go hard, power, pain, with everything to lose and a lot more to gain. Victory is key to unlock the chain.